Okay, today we're talking about run-ons and comma splices, two of the biggest mistakes that we see in grammar. What are run-ons and comma splices? Okay, well, both of these occur whenever we have independent clauses that are jammed together without proper punctuation. So, for example, Ralph worked, Steve slept. Both of those are independent clauses. Okay, now, if I just jam both of those together like this, that's a run-on. Okay, and that's a problem. Okay, if I do this, Ralph worked, comma, Steve slept, that's a comma splice. That's a problem as well. Both of those are grammatically incorrect. Okay, so how to punctuate a compound sentence properly so that we don't end up with a run on or a comma splice. Remember, a compound sentence is any sentence that has multiple independent clauses and no other types of clauses. Okay, so when we write compound sentences, we need to make sure that these independent clauses are separated with proper punctuation. That should say punctuation and or proper conjunctions. Three common ways for correctly oh, three common ways for correctly connecting independent clauses are these. One, use a comma and a coordinating conjunction, a fanboy, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Okay. Two, use a semicolon and a conjunctive adverb and then a comma afterwards. All right. Three, just turn each independent clause into its own sentence. Basically, find where they're jammed together, put a period between them. Those are your three options. Now, there's also a secret fourth option. You can also connect independent clauses with what are called subordinating conjunctions. However, this changes a compound sentence into something new, and we will cover that later when we talk about complex sentences. So, the first method, using a comma plus a coordinating conjunction, a fanboy. Okay, when you have a run-on or a comma splice, a very easy tool for fixing this is the comma coordinating conjunction. This is otherwise known as the comma fanboy. So a comma plus one of these 7 words, whichever word makes the most sense for the sentence, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Ralph worked, Steve slept. Ralph worked, comma, Steve slept, run-on, comma splice. How do we fix this? Well, we know that that's wrong, and we have to we'll just use method number 1 to fix both of these situations. Ralph worked, comma, but Steve slept. Okay, it's not a comma splice because we're using the conjunction with it. Okay, that comma conjunction, that's the correct method. Ralph worked and Steve slept. Okay, comma, and. Ralph worked, so Steve slept. Ralph worked, yet Steve slept. Now, all of these are correct. One thing to keep in mind, though, is you want to use the conjunction that best fits the meaning that you're intending. Okay? All 4 of these are grammatically correct, right? But consider how they change the meaning a little bit. Okay? If I say, Ralph worked, but Steve slept, it kind of makes it sound like maybe Steve is lazy. Okay? Same thing when I say Ralph worked and Steve slept. Okay? However, when I go down here to so, Ralph worked, so Steve slept, slightly different implication. It's suggesting that maybe they're working in shifts. They're taking turns like that. Okay, so again, when you use these conjunctions, pick the one that best fits the meaning that you're going for. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, but either way, that's how it's done correctly. Comma plus the fanboy. Now it's correct. Now it's a compound sentence. Okay. Second method, the conjunctive adverb. Okay. Conjunctive adverb is a word or short phrase that provides a link to the previous sentence or previous independent clause. Now, here's a list of common conjunctive adverbs, and these are really the ones you'll see on the test. Okay. However, also, therefore, thus, regardless, subsequently. Now the list is much longer than that, but those are some of the common ones. Okay? Now, these can also exist in the form of phrases. On the other hand, to the contrary, for example, and again, that's just a few of them. Basically, these function the same way commas and fanboys function. We just punctuate them differently. Here's the method. When a conjunctive adverb is connecting independent clauses, we follow this order: semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma. So, Ralph worked, Steve slept, run on, Ralph worked, Steve slept, comma splice. Let's fix these with a conjunctive adverb. Ralph worked, semicolon, however, comma, Steve slept. Ralph worked, semicolon, therefore, comma, Steve slept. It's the same kind of thing, okay? Just like a comma fanboy, it's building a bridge. It's connecting these two independent clauses. We just punctuate these differently, okay? And that's the method. Now, this is posted on Schoology, but here's the list of conjunctive adverbs. This is not something you need to memorize, but it is something you need to be familiar with to help you just recognize these in general. Okay, now for the third option, very simple, just make separate sentences. Ralph worked, Steve slept. Okay, Ralph worked, period, Steve slept. There you go. There's the third option, just make different sentences. Now, something that's important to keep in mind. Okay, when it comes to using these three tools, okay, the comma fanboy, the conjunctive adverb, making separate sentences, mix it up. Use a variety. Don't ever use any one of these tools exclusively. You want to have variety in your writing. Okay, so use a variety of these tools. Don't just rely on one method, especially method number 3. Okay, is method number 3 okay to use? Yes, but don't use it all the time. Otherwise, if you just have short, simple sentences throughout, it'll come across as sounding kind of like a small child. So have a variety. And on the other hand, if all you do is conjunctive adverbs, you're going to sound overly wordy and it's going to be harder for your audience to follow. Mix it up to improve the flow of your writing. Okay, good writing needs a variety of sentence structures and different kinds of conjunctions. Any of these methods get overused, the writing voice becomes bland and robotic.